Chapter 7, The Lion and the Lamb. Trying to get rid of this bookmark. Okay. When the boys were gone, a lull fell upon Plumfield, and the family scattered to various places for brief outings. As August had come, and all felt the need of change. The professor took Mrs. Joe to the mountains. The Lawrences were at the seashore, and there Meg's family and the Bear boys took turns to visit, as someone must always be at home to keep things in order. Mrs. Meg with Daisy was in office when the events occurred which we were about to relate. Rob and Ted were just up from Rocky Nook, and Nan was passing a week with her friend as the only relaxation she allowed herself. Demi was off on a run with Tom, so Rob, excuse me, I gotta put my leg up. Let's see, run with Tom. So Rob was man of the house. With old Silas as general overseer. The sea air seemed to have gone to Ted's head, for he was unusually freakish, and led his gentle aunt and poor Rob a life of it with his pranks. Octu was worn out with the wild rides he took, and Don openly rebelled when ordered to leap and show off his accomplishments, while the girls at college were both amused and worried by the ghost who haunted the grounds at night, the unearthly melodies that disturbed their studious hours, and the hair-breadth escapes of this restless boy by flood and field and fire. Something happened at length which effectually sobered Ted and made a lasting impression on both the boys, for sudden danger and a haunting fear turned the lion into a lamb, and the lamb into a lion as far as courage went. On the 1st of September, the boys never forgot the date. After a pleasant tramp and good luck with their fishing, the brothers were lounging in the barn, for Daisy had company and the lads kept out of the way. "I tell you what it is, Bobby, that dog is sick. He won't play, nor eat, nor drink, and acts queerly. Dan will kill us if anything happens to him," said Ted, looking at Don, who lay near his kennel resting a moment after one of the restless wanderings which kept him vibrating between the door of Dan's room and this shady corner of the yard where his master had settled him with an old cat to guard till he came back. "It's the hot weather, perhaps, but I sometimes think he's pining for Dan. Dogs do, you know. And the poor fellow has been low in his mind ever since the boys went. Maybe something has happened to Dan. Don howled last night and can't rest." "I've heard of such things," answered Rob thoughtfully. "Pooh, he can't know. He's cross. I'll stir him up and take him for a run. Always makes me feel better. Hi, boy, wake up and be jolly." And Ted snapped his fingers at the dog, who only looked at him with grim indifference. "Better let him alone. If he isn't right tomorrow, we'll take him to Dr. Watkins and see what he says." And Rob went on watching the swallows as he lay in the hay, polishing up some Latin verses he had made. The spirit of perversity entered into Ted, and merely because he was told not to tease Don, he went on doing it, pretending that it was for the dog's good. Don took no heed of his pats, commands, reproaches, or insults till Ted's patience gave out, and seeing a convenient switch nearby, he could not resist the temptation to conquer the great hound by force. Since gentleness failed to win obedience, he had the wisdom to chain Don up first, for a blow from any hand but his master's made him savage, and Ted had more than once tried the experiment, as the dog remembered. This indignity roused Don, and he set up with a growl. Rob heard it, and seeing Ted raise the switch, ran to interfere, exclaiming, "Don't touch him! Dan forbade it. Leave the poor thing in peace. I won't allow it." Rob seldom commanded, but when he did, Master Ted had to give in. His temper was up, and Rob's masterful tone made it impossible to resist one cut at the rebellious dog before he submitted. Only a single blow, but it was a costly one, for as it fell, the dog sprang at Ted with a snarl, and Rob, rushing between the two, felt the sharp teeth pierce his leg. A word made Don let go and drop remorsefully at Rob's feet, for he loved him, and was evidently sorry to have hurt his friend by mistake. With a forgiving pat, Rob left him to limp to the barn, followed by Ted, whose wrath was changed to shame and sorrow when he saw the red drops on Rob's sock and the little wounds in his leg. "I'm awfully sorry. Why'd you get in the way? Here, wash it up, and I'll get a rag to tie on it," he said quickly, filling a sponge with water and pulling out a very demoralized handkerchief. Rob usually made light of his own mishaps and was ready to forgive if others were to blame, but now he sat quite still, looking at the purple marks with such a strange expression on his white face that Ted was troubled, though he added with a laugh, "Why, you're not afraid of a little dig like that, are you, Bobby?" "I am afraid of hydrophobia, but if Don is mad, I'd rather be the one to have it," answered Rob with a smile and a shiver. At that dreadful word, Ted turned whiter than his brother, and dropping sponge and handkerchief, stared at him with a frightened face, whispering in a tone of despair, "Oh, Rob, don't say it. What shall we do? What shall we do?" "Call Nan. She'll know. Don't scare Annie or tell a soul but Nan. She's on the back piazza. Get her out here as quick as you can. I'll wash it till she comes. Maybe it's nothing. Don't look so staggered, Ted. I only thought it might be, as Donna's queer." Rob tried to speak bravely, but Ted's long legs felt strangely weak as he hurried away, and it was lucky he met no one, for his face would have betrayed him. Nan was swinging luxuriously in a hammock, amusing herself with a lively treatise on croup, when an agitated voice suddenly clutched her, whispering as he nearly pulled her overboard, "Come to Rob in the barn. Don's mad, and he's bitten him, and we don't know what to do. It's all my fault. No one must know. Oh, do be quick." Nan was on her feet at once, startled, but with her wits about her, and both were off without more words as they dodged round the house, where unconscious Daisy chatted with her friends in the parlor, and Aunt Meg peacefully took her afternoon nap upstairs. Rob was braced up and was as calm and steady as ever when they found him in the harness room, whither he had wisely retired to escape observation. The story was soon told, and after a look at Don, now in his kennel, sad and surly, Nan said slowly, with her eye on the full water pan, "Rob, there's one thing to do for the sake of safety, and it must be done at once. We can't wait to see if Don is sick, or go for a doctor. I can do it, and I will, but it's very painful, and I hate to hurt you, dear." A most unprofessional quiver got into Nan's voice as she spoke, and her keen eyes dimmed as she looked at the two anxious young ones turned so confidently to her for help. "I know Burnett will do it, please. I can bear it, but Ted better go away," said Rob, with a firm settling of his lips and a nod at his afflicted brother. "I won't stir. I can stand it if he can. Only it ought to be me," cried Ted, with a desperate effort not to cry, so full of grief and fear and shame was he, that it seemed as if he couldn't bear it like a man. "He'd better stay and help. Do him good, He'd better stay and help. Do him good," answered Nan sternly, because her heart was faint within her, knowing as she did all that might be in store for both poor boys. "Keep quiet. I'll be back in a minute," she added, going towards the house. while her quick mind hastily planned what was best to be done. It was ironing day, and a hot fire still burned in the empty kitchen, for the maids were upstairs resting. Nan put a slender poker to heat, and as she sat waiting for it, covered her face with her hands, asking help in the sudden need for strength, courage, and wisdom, for there was no one else to call upon. And young as she was, she knew what was to be done if she only had the nerve to do it. Any other patient would have been calmly interesting, but dear good Robin, his father's pride, his mother's comfort, everyone's favorite and friend, that he should be in danger was very terrible, and a few hot tears dropped on the well-scoured table as Nan tried to calm her trouble by remembering how very likely it was to be all mistake, a natural but vain alarm. I must make light of it, or the boys will break down, and then there will be a panic. Why afflict and frighten everyone when it's all in doubt? I won't. I'll take Rob to Dr. Morrison at once and have the dog man see Don. Then, having done all we can, we'll either laugh at our scare if it fits one, or be ready for whatever comes. Now for my poor boy. Armed with the red-hot poker, a pitcher of ice water, and several handkerchiefs from the clothes horse, Nan went back to the barn, ready to do her best in this, her most serious emergency case. The boys sat like statues, one of despair and the other resignation, and it took all Nan's boasted nerve to do her work quickly. Boasted nerve to do her work quickly and well. Now, Rob, only a minute, then we are safe. Stand by, Ted. He may be a bit faintish. Rob shut his eyes, clenched his hands, and sat like a hero. Ted kneeled beside him, white as a sheet, as weak as a girl, for the pangs of remorse were rending him, and his heart failed at the thought of all this pain because of his willfulness. It was all over in a minute with only one little groan, but when Nan looked to her assistant to hand the water, poor Ted needed it the most, for he had fainted away and lay on the floor in a pathetic heap of arms and legs. Rob laughed, and cheered by that unexpected sound, Nan bound up the wound with the hands that never trembled, though great drops stood on her forehead, and she shared the water with patient number 1 before she turned to patient number 2. Ted was much ashamed and quite broken in spirit when he found out he had failed at the critical moment, and begged them not to tell, as he really could not help it. Then, by way of finishing his utter humiliation, a burst of hysterical tears disgraced his manly soul and did him a world of good. Never mind, we're all right now, and no one need to be the wiser, said Nan briskly, as poor Ted hiccuped on Rob's shoulder, laughing and crying in the most tempestuous manner, while his brother soothed him, and the young doctor fanned both with Silas's old straw hat. Now, boys, listen to me and remember what I say. We won't alarm anyone yet, for I've made up my mind our scare is all nonsense. Don was out lapping the water as I came by, and I still believe he's mad, and I don't believe he's mad any more than I am. Still, to ease our minds and compose our spirits and get our guilty faces out of sight for a while, I think we'd better drive into town to my old friend Dr. Morrison and let him just take a look at my work and give us some quieting little dose, for we are all rather shaken by this flurry. Sit still, Rob. And Ted, you harness up while I run and get my hat and tell Annie to excuse me to Daisy. I don't know those Penniman girls, and she will be glad of our room at tea, and we'll have a cozy bite at my house and come home as and come home as gay as larks. And guys, I know that's not a whole lot, but woo, I'm sleepy. And got the dry mouth. Daggone. And it won't be long till it'll be time for Live at 3. 3, GrannyDee at 3 on this Sunday. Hope to see you there. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Love to you all. Bye-bye.